when I left and I quit college, it was something that I felt was in my heart, that was instilled within my soul. It wasn't even my heart, it was my soul. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe you understand, but it's something that you feel tethered in between your bones. Like, it's in your DNA. Like, this is something that you can't explain or express. You just know that it's like beyond part of you.
Yes.
It's like who you are, you
Yes.
know? And that feeling is what, ultimately was like, screw this. Like, I need to leave. Like, I need to leave the city and I need to come to New York and just chase what I feel like is for me. And thank God I did.
Hola, welcome back to Ellas. I'm your host, Brenda Hernandez Jaimes. Thank you for joining us and tuning in for the 50th episode of Ellas. Gracias for joining us on this amazing journey of amplifying, empowering Latina voices of our communities and helping us spearhead these important conversations of how they've been paving their path in their careers and industries and life for themselves and for the next generation that is coming. You can continue supporting Ellas by subscribing to all the major podcast platforms, which is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and we're also on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button and leave a review while you're here. Let us know which has been your favorite conversation out of all 50. And I'm so happy to share that for this celebration, we have the amazing Tanya Ortega to celebrate 50 amazing conversations. And Tanya Ortega, I admire her so much. She is a trailblazer Latina. Currently, she is a fashion stylist contributor for Vogue International based in New York City, with clients such as Vogue México, Vogue Brasil, Vogue Spain, and E! News, while spending time assisting in being right hand to fashion editor at large of Vogue Paris. In New York, Tanya has spent years nurturing high-end designer PR brand relationships, handling market for the top regions, including Europe, Latin America, North America, and Asia, as well as traveling all over the world for fashion editorials. Tanya has become the New York fashion correspondent for editorial, fashion week, and production leads for Vogue México and Vogue Brasil, creating beautiful fashion editorials for clients such as Gucci, Dior, Tommy Hilfiger, and assist working on commercial advertisements for brands such as YSL Beauty, Estee Lauder, Jimmy Choo, Polo RL, DKNY, Karl Lagerfeld, Victoria's Secret, and more. She is the former head of fashion for the highly popular TV network E! News and Pop of the Morning, where she handles styling for top talent, including Liliana Vasquez, Victor Cruz, and Scott Twiddle. Tanya has not only focused her talents on editorial content, but is also well-rounded in celebrity dressing for red carpet, the VMAs, Oscars, Met Gala, CFDA Awards, Golden Globes, Tony Awards, and music videos such as Downtown by Anita featuring J Balvin. Being the daughter of two Mexican parents who moved to the States for a better life, Tanya has made it her mission to highly involve Hispanic and Latinos to her styling team as a way to pave the road for LatinX talent in an industry that can easily place you in a stereotypical niche. I'm so happy to present Tanya Ortega. Welcome, Tanya. Hola.
Thank you. Wow, that introduction. I hope if I ever win an award at some point, somebody introduces me like that.
Well, you can always call me. And if you like, I can do it again. I would love to do that again. Tanya, muchas gracias for being here. I am honored that you are sharing your time with us, to our listeners, and to myself about your amazing journey. And I want to start with the same question that I do with every single guest. Knowing what I just shared in this introduction and your amazing career, I want to know, who is Tanya? Behind all the success and the accomplishment and the passion, I want to know, who exactly is Tanya?
That is actually a really good question. Who I am, aside from fashion, I feel like I will always be this little girl that grew up watching her mom sew and sketch and cut patterns. I definitely still have, I feel like, a little girl inside of me that I feel is what grounds me. I am a very loving person, which I think has nurtured my relationships within the industry, that kind of like love that I have. I love my poodle.
Yes, Pumpkin, correct?
Pumpkin, she's laying down right next to me, of course. So I love Selena. Everybody knows.
Yes.
If anybody asks me who Tanya is, I am reincarnated Selena. I'm obsessed with her.
And talking about Selena, you recently accomplished the Vogue Mexico cover with Christian Serratos on the cover. You styled that editorial. That must have been you describing yourself as a reincarnation of Selena, and then doing that editorial. That must have been, I saw your Instagram, but like, can you walk us through those emotions that when that opportunity came and you just, how was it? Like, what were you feeling? How was that whole process like?
Well, I didn't, first of all, just clear it. I didn't style that editorial. I helped on that editorial, Valentina Collado, Valentina Collado, who is the fashion director of Vogue Mexico. You know, she did all the creative. I flew in from New York to LA to help with the shoot because of COVID and people can't travel internationally. So I was in charge of the market and the fashion production and everything on that end. It was a really great experience. I feel like when Valentina asked me to join, if I wanted to do the shoot with Christian, she was like, it's Selena. Selena inspired, you know, she's like going to be on the series. I was like, you don't even have to ask me twice. Yes, I'll be there. You know, she's like, I obviously can't travel, so I want to send you to LA. And I was like, perfect, like, absolutely. We worked on the mood boards together. And then we started pulling, you know, inspo. She had her inspo. I started, you know, pulling from brands in New York and in LA that I knew, you know, fit the mood. And Valentina and I work really great together because I feel like we understand each other. And so we're usually on the same page. So she kind of gives me, you know, the freedom to just run with it whenever I'm like choosing pieces, etc. And I think the whole experience was really heartwarming for me because I think for everybody, we're so stuck with the image of J-Lo as Selena. Yes. It's kind of hard to picture somebody else as Selena. So I was really curious as to, you know, do the shoot and like meet her and like kind of get her vibe. And ultimately make my decision if I felt comfortable her being Selena as a fan, you know?
The number one fan.
Yes. So, and to be honest, I feel like she totally, like, Christian is literally such an amazing human being. I had the most amazing day on set with her. She is so down to earth, so easy to work with. You can tell she loves what she does. She's so good at her craft. And I feel like out of all the shoots that I've done over the years, hers is probably one of the easiest and smoothest that I've had dealing with a celebrity. And I think after getting to know her on set and we talked about, you know, the documentary and everything and the way she talked about Selena and, you know, she spoke a little bit about her upbringing with me and things like that, I feel like that kind of gave a special touch. And it went beyond me feeling like, could she play Selena on TV? I think it went beyond of like, wow, like I feel like I know this person and I'm really happy the way that this shoot turned out, the way that everybody worked together. But just the vibe that she had on set was kind of like, I'm really excited to see this documentary because she's bringing like love to this character. And the way she spoke about her on set, I just feel like that was such a special moment for me. I, you know, binge watched last night, the series. And just because, you know, I was, you know, blessed enough to be able to work with her and meet her, I feel like the documentary meant even more to me, and I really enjoyed it. So that was very, very, very special for me.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. And just knowing that last night you finishing the series just came full circle for you. That must have
Yes,
been,
it
yeah,
did, because
beautiful.
I feel like I have such a personal and emotional attachment to that character,
Mm-hmm.
um, that, I just feel like, wow, like I've not only was I able to like merge my love for fashion, but then merge this one legendary
Mm-hmm.
icon with it, and then now see the documentary, and I feel like I was a little girl again, for sure. It was, I hands down, one of the best experiences, and the documentary is great. I was very, very entertained.
And talking about that little girl of like who you are and seeing that Selena is one of your favorite singers and artists, you're the number one fan, and having this experience
I'm wearing Selena pants. Isn't
and you're
that
wearing
funny?
Selena pants, like, okay, it's meant
Como
to
la
be.
flor.
Como la flor es exactamente, sí.
Business on top, party on the bottom.
Exactly. I love that Selena is, part of this celebration as well. And, it goes to my question because you growing up in Texas, you know, obviously Selena, I imagine, was a big part of your life. Also a style icon because her looks. And
100%.
so I want to know, really dig into that. How were you inspired to be passionate about fashion, specifically fashion styling? How did that decision came about? You kind of, teased it a bit, with, being surrounded with your mom, with pattern making, but I imagine you loving Selena and just having that fashion around you kind of paved the way for your interest. But how was that like?
Yeah, I feel like, my mom has always been a creative. Before I was even born, she was in a club in Juarez, Mexico, in Chihuahua. My grandpa was a lawyer, and so she was like in this like socialite club in Mexico. It was called Club de Leones, and they used to have at the time like balls and like dances and stuff. And she used to, design her own dresses. So I feel
Yeah.
like this comes already from generation. It's a
Mm-hmm.
generational thing. Um, and so growing up, I was very much instilled and inspired by my mom. She would make my clothes. I would watch her sew. We'd go to Walmart together when they had like the fabric section, and I would go with her and choose fabric. And then she'd be buying like the Alice McCall patterns. I mean, even if you go still to like Michael's, I believe, or Hobby Lobby, if they have, I don't know where else they have them. I know they have them in Texas. They always have this section of like patterns, and Alice McCall is a really popular one that has been around for decades. And so I used to watch her, buy the patterns for these different silhouettes that she wanted to make. And I grew up pretty much, just watching her, and she'd always have magazines. And like, my mom has just always been a very creative person. She loves interior designing. Everything in our home was painted, was glued, was made by her. And I feel like growing up with that inspiration, really kind of put that little seed in me. And I was like, wow, I like, this is really fun. I've always liked to make stuff with my hands. And so I pretty much knew I wanted to do something creative since I was in middle school. I want to say like sixth grade,
Mm-hmm.
fifth, sixth grade. Um, we did like a career project of like, what would you want to be when you grew up,
Yeah.
And mine was, and I wish I still had it. I feel like maybe I do it in like my home in Texas. Like, it has to be somewhere. But I did a whole project, and it was like this binder, like this thick. And all the pages were just plastered of me wanting to be in a magazine world and the fashion and everything. So that was basically, I feel like it was just always, it was something that I knew was in me. I knew that I was destined to do. And aside from me loving it, it was like this unattainable like passion that I had inside of me, that I was like, how am I going to like get this in my hands? So yeah, and at the time I was growing up, I was watching Mary-Kate and Ashley. They're
Oh,
huge fashion
yes.
icons. So I think with the inspiration of Selena and Mary-Kate and Ashley, those are my top two inspirations, aside from my mom, that I really grasped on since I was very little. and kind of grew like that love for creating. And I didn't really know what styling was at the time, to be honest. I only knew I don't think a lot of people knew what styling was, because at the time, you know, Carlene Surf was huge. Rachel Zoe was huge with celebrity VIP styling. There's really big stylists at the time, but I don't think that the career was so widely known as it is now. In part, I feel because of social media. But, you know, at the time I knew I wanted to do fashion design. I don't think that I realized that I wanted to be a stylist until maybe after I graduated high school. I feel it's like when I really discovered what styling was. And then I was like, oh my God, like I'm good at this. Like screw sketching. Let me just put it together, you know? So,
and I was looking through your Instagram stories, and you were sharing with us memories how you were in class and you posted about like you knew that this was meant for you, this calling of fashion styling, because you were so dedicated and passionate in doing your schoolwork. So once you were in school and starting to be a fashion stylist, and like you said, it was still like kind of unknown back then, but tell us of that experience of you know, choosing fashion styling, discovering this love because you were enjoying your schoolwork, and then maybe the steps that you personally took to have that dream be attainable.
So I feel like when I was 17, I started working at Michael Kors in the mall. And this was probably, I feel like, my second job that I had. So when I started working at Michael Kors, I started learning how to have like client interactions, you know, customer service. And a lot of the girls, you know, that would come in and shop at the store, you know, they wanted to like, you know, you had to kind of dress them up, you know, help them. So I started doing like personal styling there. So I was very excited every time a customer would come in. I'd be like, oh my God, like you should put those shoes with that dress. And, you know, and I was 17 at the time. So I had just graduated high school and I started working there, and I was like, oh my God, this is so fun. Like I totally want to like work in fashion, you know? And when you get hired, you kind of have to read a summary about the designer, right? So I was reading about Michael Kors's upbringing and the history and, you know, the different brands that he designed for before he became Michael Kors. And I was like, I remember thinking to myself, like, I literally remember this like as if it was yesterday, and I'm flipping through the binder and I'm reading it and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Like, this is totally what I want to do. At the time, I hadn't planned like what college I was going to go to. I really wanted to go to FITM in LA. It was so expensive. So I hadn't enrolled to college yet. And when I started working at Michael Kors, I was like, this is actually like pretty fun. Like, I think that this is what I want to do. So I went to community college in El Paso, and they had fashion technology, very small class. My teacher was literally like Trish Winstead. She took care of the whole fashion curriculum in Texas for community colleges. So I couldn't have been taught by a more adequate, better person, you know. She created the courses for all of Texas Community College in fashion, and her industry knowledge and passion and just the intellect that she has is just beyond that. I don't know that I would have gotten that kind of valued education at a university where there's like so many students that want to do the same thing as you. So I'm very grateful that I ended up at the community college. It was a class of maybe like only 18 slots, and by the end of the first semester there was probably 5 of us. Like, people didn't really last. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go, you know, enroll in, this is what I want to do with my life. So I ended up enrolling into that, and I feel like on my second semester, so I turned 18, and then I quit Michael Kors. I started going to college, and I was like, I really want to, I want to work, but I really want a job where I'm enjoying, or like I can keep learning or applying what I'm learning in school into this position.
Yes.
So I went to the mall. I don't really remember how I found out about this visual merchandising position at Forever 21. I was 18. I was 18 or 19. No, I was 19. I must have been 19. something like that. It's been like 10 years now. It's crazy. So I don't really remember how I found about this visual merchandising position. I probably looked online.
Yeah.
Or was it like a workers' comp? I can't remember. Anyway, so I had a project for class. It was my fashion buying project, and it was a huge binder. So you basically have to come up with your demographic, who your customer is. You're describing how old she is, where does she shop, does she have kids, when does she plan to have kids, what is her job, what kind of car does she drive, right? Then you're talking about like, okay, I want to make a store. Okay, how much, the square footage of my store. Then I'm starting to calculate, okay, per square footage, I need to make X amount of money. What kind of stands do I have? Do I have T stands? Do I have single stands? Do I have, like bars on the wall? And what kind of, what is my budget, the budget of the clothes? Like, am I ranging clothes from $50 to $150? Or do I want to cater to a more higher end customer? Maybe my clothes is from $200 to $500. So all these things are shaped into this project. And I'm talking about my preferred consumer. Where am I selling? Am I direct to consumer, or am I selling through Macy's to my consumer, So I'm building this whole project around it. I'm building my theme, my slogan. So I take this project to Forever 21. I talk to the manager. I'm like, listen, I'm in school. Like, this is what I'm learning. I brought my project. They didn't even ask for that in the interview. Like, I just made it. I was like, I really want this job. So maybe if I show it to them, like, they'll be like, oh shit, like this girl's a real deal. So when I went, they're like, do you have any questions? I was like, bam, here's my binder. This is what I'm doing. And I was hired on the spot. They were like, oh, we love you. We totally would love to have you on the team. So I started working as a visual merchandiser at Forever 21. I want to say maybe under 2 years. And visual merchandising was so fun for me. I'm very good at taking directive, So if anybody ever gives me some kind of direction, especially like a brand or a creative director, they give you some kind of direction. I'm really good at running with it and interpreting that direction. So Forever 21, visual merchandising really taught me how to apply my knowledge and my taste to whatever creative directions that they had for each section. So I'm sure you probably shopped at Forever 21 when you were younger, and you go in there and there's different sections. You have the contemporary section. You have maybe a more like rocker kind of section, a junior high school kind of girl. So you have different kind of girls in the store. So I was basically in charge of 2 to 3 sections. And, I would come up with the colors and the prints that I wanted to put together. And I think that's when I realized, like, what is this, And I realized that was styling, which I didn't even know. But I was basically styling because I was dressing my mannequins and I was putting whatever I wanted on my mannequins. And customers would come in, and they'd be like, well, I want what's on the mannequin, And then I'm, like, helping them, based on sometimes, certain tops don't work on certain body shapes, And so I learned a lot from that job, and I feel like I took away a lot from that job. And after that, I realized that that's what I wanted to do. I quit my job, and I was like, I want to do this like full time. Mm-hmm. So in El Paso, I used to model, locally, and I was signed with Bazaar Models. And I told the founder, I was like, hey, like, I really want to style the girls. She's like, okay, cool. So I started working with her. So I quit, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go work with this modeling agency. They weren't paying me squat, but I was like, whatever. Like, I just want to get my foot in, Yeah. It's good for resume. And, we had, local fashion shows, Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, we had, I believe, like 2 to 3 shows a year, like fashion shows. And then they'd have like Macy's or Dillard's sponsored fashion shows in the store. And so I was in charge of, styling the girls there. I was young, had no idea what I was doing, by the way. The amount of times that I screwed up, insane. And I still think about it today, like at this time. And I'm like, damn, like there is moments that I really screwed up and I'm like, that was embarrassing. But like, well, how could I have known then? You know, like also how could they have known?
There were
like,
learning experiences.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm happy that I made those mistakes there and not here because Lord help me. But you know, and then I started styling there, and then they had this local magazine, the City Magazine. And I went up to the editor-in-chief and I was like, hey, you know, I'm a stylist. I kind of want to join your team. And she was like, oh, she liked me. And then I joined their team. So it was basically just like asking people. I also think that, you know, fashion is not big in El Paso, or at the time it really wasn't that big. So I was lucky enough to get ahead of that curve.
Yeah. And I think because you were saying earlier, you know, your class started with 18 students and it ended with 5 students, that more closeness of teaching and that curriculum. And then obviously at that time, the fashion industry in El Paso was smaller perhaps than it is now. But you took the necessary steps and experience on your resume. So when you came to the magazine, you were prepared to take on that editorial work.
I actually moved to assist another stylist that I had been interning for in the summer. Then that fell through. And then this other opportunity came in. So I didn't even have anything when I came to New York. I was just kind of like, you know what, I'm going to have to figure it out. Like, I don't know what to say or do. I didn't finish college because I just felt that, you know, timing is just so important. It's quite tricky because sometimes people ask me if they should go to school. I think that school is very important. I think that there are many, many things that I learned in college that I wouldn't have known now. I think that a lot of times my interns that work with me chose a route to not go to college. And that could, everybody's different. That could either help you or hurt you, because I definitely feel like there are many times that I want to communicate to my interns certain things and they don't know because they don't have the educational knowledge that I did have. You know, it's really good when I walk on set and the creative director or the head of the brand is talking about, you know, this is big here on the shirt and we have a seamstress on set. Okay, well, guess what? I have the knowledge of, okay, well, why don't we draw 2 darts here, you know, and then we'll pin the back, or we put 2 seams in the back and maybe the seam allowance is 1 inch and we take this in here and there, and they're like, oh shit. Because why? Because I have that knowledge. I have that education. I can not only dress someone, I know how to make it work. I can do 2 jobs at once, you know? So it's kind of hard, like when people ask me if like school is important, but like I did learn a lot. And when I left, it wasn't like I had only gone to school for a semester. I went to school for almost 4 semesters. I was at the end of my degree. The only thing that I had left was to present my collection. That was basically it. But I had already taken all my curriculums. I did the math. I took the psychology. I took the fashion buying, fashion marketing, fashion design, sketching, draping 1, draping 2, like literally took everything. So when I left, I had already been interning in New York for the summer of 2014. I came to New York. I lived in Portchester, which was an hour away from the city. And I would get on the train every day to intern, maybe an hour and a half. So if my internship was at 8, I was up at 5 a.m. I would get on the train from Portchester to Grand Central, take my subway down to Soho, and I was starting my internship. And then I would end the internship maybe at like 6, 7. I would have to tell them, like, you know, I don't live close by. Jump on the train. By the time I got home, it was like 8 p.m. I was so exhausted. It was the most fulfilling that I've ever felt in my life. I felt like, wow, I have a mission. Like I was made for something, you know? And at the same time, I was working in Connecticut at a store part-time as an associate, which is one of my favorite stores that I've ever worked at, Maj. Literally one of the best jobs that I've ever had. before like being able to do this full time. Working at Maj was such a turning point for me. The manager really believed in me. You know what I think is very important? Having people that believe in you.
Yes.
The amount of people that have been in my journey, whether they lasted in my life a month, whether it was a year, whether it was 3 months, every person that has been in my life has seen something in me and has cheered me on. My manager at Maj was was a Latino. And so I feel like for him, he was also kind of rooting for me because, it's like, yes, like, the Hispanic community. And so he would give me the days off that I needed to do my internship. So when I was not doing my internship, I was working at the store. I came back and then I talked to my teacher. I was like, hey, like, I don't know what to do. The girl that I was interning for in the summer, Bettina Bati, was like, I really want to like have like a full-time assistant, like just have the same person. And I was like, oh my God, well, I'll move to New York. But I think that she didn't want to feel the responsibility of this young girl's quitting college to move to New York to come work for me. And I can't even really compensate her enough to live out here. So I think, which I totally get, like, I totally understand. And so I talked to my teacher and I was like, which is what that picture that I posted on my Insta story was a very like sweet reminder of that point. That was my last semester that I did in college. That picture was my last project. And my teacher was like, go. She's like, you have so much time to finish school if you want. She's like, you have the talent, you have the drive and the hunger. She's like, go, like, it's New York. Like, why would you miss out opportunity? My parents obviously were not in agreement. Thank God I was over 18 because they would have not let my ass out. They weren't in agreement. I was kind of a rebellious spirit in the sense that I kind of left without really their permission. It was just kind of like, well, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't want to be stuck in this city, just partying and like working at an office and like hating my life. Like, that's not what I want to do. Like, I feel like God really put this calling within me. And I feel like over the years, this calling has changed. My mission has changed. And so, I came, the internship with Bettina, or the assistant position with Bettina, kind of fell through. And then, through connections, one of my friends knew a friend that worked for style.com, which is voguerunway.com now. At the time it was called style.com, where all the runway shows were being shown at. And she was, yes, R.I.P. Oh, yeah.
Ayúdate que Dios te ayudará. And
never heard it.
You've never heard of it. Okay, so basically that saying was basically you helped yourself and God helped you to have that opportunity for that internship.
I think God was like waiting for me to make a move. So it'd be like, okay, this is what I had for you.
Yeah.
So, but it's so funny because before I left to New York, I was obsessed with Gossip Girl, right? I'm obsessed with Gossip Girl. I'm like, I freaking love New York. Like, I want to live in New York. And I'm like, God, like, how do I get to New York? And I remember this like it was yesterday. Like, I can be in that space right now because it's such a like vivid memory for me. And at the time I was following Giovanna Battaglia. Like, I was obsessed with her. I was like, oh my God, she is so amazing, legendary, icon, like insane. How do I get there? And I remember after watching an episode of Gossip Girl, I went to sleep. I was like, hey, it's time to go to sleep. I was looking, going on my Instagram, and one of the first iPhones that they had out was the iPhone 4. And I see her picture, and I put my phone down, and I remember asking God, I'm like, God, how do I get in her circle? Like, how can I get there? At the time, they were not doing internships with Vogue anymore because there was a lawsuit, years ago with unpaid internships, just a whole mess. So I was like, okay, they don't do internships for Vogue anymore. So how do I get into this circle? And I just remember praying about it. I was like, you know what? You know the desires of my heart, and your will be done. And if this truly is my calling and my destiny, I know that, you will put in place everything that needs to be put in place as long as I listen to you, you know? So when I came to New York and I had the interview and she told me that she was the assistant for Giovanna Battaglia, like I literally kept my cool. I was talking to her like I'm talking to you like this. And I was like, okay, great. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, of course I would like to enter. Inside, I was like, ah! Like I was going crazy. I was like, this cannot be happening. But of course it's happening. Like it was insane. I left the interview and I told my mom and we started both crying. I was like, cannot believe this. Like, what? So, you know, I ended up interning for her for about 1.5 years. She loved me. Giovanna loved me. It was such an amazing experience for me. I learned so much from her. And I was very thankful that I didn't finish college for that reason, because I feel like you know, timing is everything.
Yes.
And it was not an easy decision for me. I feel like it really was not an easy decision for me to leave. It was easy for me to leave because I knew what I wanted and I knew what I needed to work for, but it wasn't easy for me to leave morally.
Yes.
Because, you know, coming from an Hispanic household, you're taught, you know, to listen to your parents, get a good job, whether it's a government paying job, where you're either a doctor or a lawyer or a dentist, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Exactly. Getting that degree, which is totally understandable because their parents come from, you know, from a more difficult life that they had to work to get here. So I completely understand. My rebellious spirit in that sense was just kind of like, my heart is pulling me this way. And so it was not hard leaving just because of that. I didn't want to disappoint my parents. And I didn't want them to be mad at me. You know, I'm only child. I don't have siblings. So everything that I do, like their world, like it's them. And then I revolve around them, you know, because like they have no other focus, you know. So that was really hard for me. I didn't want to disappoint them and I didn't want to get in a fight with them. We did have arguments about it. There was a time where I didn't speak to either of my parents for a minute, you know. And I think now I hope that my parents see, I know my mom does, but I hope that they both see that I really needed to like follow my heart. And I prayed about it, you know, like I, you know, I wanted to make sure that I was making the right decision. You know, I didn't want to go against something that maybe was not intended for me. So I definitely prayed a lot to God to just open my eyes and make my journey clear, to make sure that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing and not chasing a dream that I was not going to, you know, be able to accomplish for whatever reason. I don't know, you know? So I definitely feel like when I left and I quit college, it was something that I felt was in my heart, that was instilled within my soul. It wasn't even my heart, it was my soul. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe you understand, but it's something that you feel tethered in between your bones. Like it's in your DNA. Like this is something that you can't explain or express. You just know that it's like beyond part of you. Yes. It's like who you are, you know? And that feeling is what, you know, ultimately was like, screw this. Like I need to leave. Like I need to leave the city and I need to come to New York and, you know, just chase what I feel like is for me. And thank God I did. Yeah. Jeez, there's like people that like did end up finishing the course, you know. There was like 5 maybe that ended up actually graduating and they're all still back at home. No shade, but like, you know, everybody's path is different. And there's 2 of the girls that did end up graduating that were in my class that have literally gone up heights. Like they have blossomed and I support them. One of them just came to New York last year. She's a pattern maker. My other friend, Nabil, she had created her own fashion line. She's doing great. She just got featured in Vogue Mexico and Vogue Brasil. You know, but everybody's path is different.
Exactly. And, you know, not only did you have confidence in your skills and your dream, and like you explained, it was part of your soul and you prayed on it. You placed that bet on yourself. And, you know, once that path became clear, the opportunities came. And it was just, it's meant to be. You accomplished it. And during that year with Giovanna, what were the lessons that really shaped you and just reinforced that dedication that this is your path, that you are meant to be here and that you are meant to grow and thrive in it? Because you said earlier you had those people that supported you, and now in that year, how was that like?
Well, I feel like I got to see Giovanna work in a way that not people are able to experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the passion that she had and just how authentic she was to herself, creatively, and how effortless it came out. I think for creatives, for us, sometimes it's very hard to execute what the creativeness that we have in our mind. I know for me, sometimes it's still hard for me to execute what I have in my head, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know what we want to do and how we want to do it, but then when we actually do it, it doesn't actually come out how we pictured it.
Yeah.
Seeing Giovanna work, how the execution was detailed to the T of what she had in mind, was such a big lesson for me. I saw the process as to how it began to end. And I really learned from that. And I really grasped that process. And I try to incorporate that into my life and my passion for it. And I think that definitely helped it grow. Her assistant Solange, is also very, very talented. She dresses now Kate Bosworth. She was editor at large for Paper Magazine at the time. She's a very amazing woman. I learned so much from her. She had already been with Giovanna for 4 years. So anything that Solange did was basically Giovanna,
Yeah.
So I feel like learning from both and the work ethic and just the process of it, I feel like really helped me. I already knew that that's what I wanted to do, but once I saw the work that had to be put in, I had so much fun doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, if there was definitely times where I cried and I was like, oh my God, I hate this life, like, take me out of here, Nothing is easy.
Nothing.
But I always went home feeling fulfilled, no matter what. I mean, I could have gotten yelled. I got yelled so many times in my internship, and I still went home fulfilled.
And I feel like
I was like, damn, at least somebody who I admire is yelling at me, Like,
right, yes.
It's fine.
And you're gonna learn from them. You were learning from them that
yeah,
time.
Exactly.
And something that it's so important in your career, and I feel like it's prior to this internship, but I think it kind of became stronger, was establishing those meaningful connections, relationships, not only surface level of connections, but really a dedication to make not only your work easier, but your life easier and have the work done. So can you share with us how, as a fashion stylist, is so important to create and cultivate these relationships with other brands, designers, people inside the industry that will be in your life for the next 10, 15 years?
Absolutely. I feel that networking and connections is probably the one most important factor in your career. I talk to everybody the way that I'm talking to you. And this feels very personable, does it not?
Mm-hmm.
Feels very genuine. It feels very personal. And you get to see, I feel like, the real side of me,
Mm-hmm.
The friendly side of me, like the not working side of me, So I feel like when you're making relationships and you're networking with people, you really want to show who you are, because those are the people that you're going to connect with the easiest, Most of my connections that I've made, whether it's at Chanel, at D Squared, at Isabel Marant, the girls that, Isabel Marant, the PR girls are in Paris. They're not even in New York. And I have such great relationships with them. The girls at Givenchy, they're also PR'd in Paris, not in New York. And I've been, having these relationships for over 4 years. And it all comes down to the way you treat people, Every time I email someone, I feel like I always try to put kind of like a personal touch to it. Like, if I don't know you, maybe, you know, I'm definitely more formal. I have that like etiquette. But if I'm, you know, I'm working with someone or I bump into the same person more than twice, you know, then I start changing my approach as to how I talk to them. So a lot of my connections, you know, if I email, I'm like, hey girl, oh my God, I saw your Insta. I hope you had a great weekend. You know, I saw this picture that you posted. You looked so cute. Anyway, you know, I'm doing this story and I would really love to, you know, request these samples A, B, and C, you know. Let me know what you think. You know, let's grab a drink soon. That already feels non-formal, but like you're working, but then it feels fun, you know, that approach. A lot of times you got to remember, like, especially for me, you know, we get emails and they all sound the same, you know. So if you are really wanting to nurture and maintain these relationships, you know, you can definitely be personal in a professional way, you know. You always want to make it work. There's never no in your language, you know. If a PR person comes and is like, you know, I need this dress, you know, after your shoot, I need it in the office the next morning at 9 a.m. You know, you obviously in your head, you know, that's not going to be possible. But you don't tell them that. You know, you're like, oh my God, girl, I totally understand you. Like, you know, I'll say something like, I will do the best that I can to get there at 9 a.m., even though I know it's not going to get there at 9 a.m. But it's the way that I like reshape my words and like I make them feel that that this is important. You know, it's kind of like I can't get this, you know, there at 9 a.m. and I know that, but you know, I'm gonna work it out with them and I'll be like, girl, text me. You know, text me if there's any issue, because I'm more, you know, reachable through text. And I will let you know when the look is on the way, you know, tomorrow morning. If there's any issues, feel free to call me. I'm totally reachable. That already seems like very, again, personal and open. And, you know, people respond well to that. I feel like we all want to work easily with each other, you know. And so the more tolerable you can be, you're going to have a lasting impact with these people. These people are going to like you. They're going to make sure that they prioritize you and your projects. And also you're going to make good friends out of it. Like I have definitely made really good friends from, you know, these girls that work in PRs and have become really good friends of mine. Claudia is one of my best friends. I met her on set, like, you know, 5 years ago. And now she's my, you know, she's my sister. Like, you know, but again, it was all through networking and we help each other, which is the most important part as well. So I feel like nurturing your relationships, so any connection that you make, because you never know if that person is going to come across another industry person and want to recommend you. Exactly. So nurturing those relationships is very important. And being yourself. Learning how to be with certain people. I've learned how to communicate with different kinds of people because not everybody, you can't speak to everybody the same. I've definitely learned, you know, communicating with Americans versus communicating with Brazilian or someone from Colombia or from Mexico. Like it's all very different. Their communication styles are very different. And so being exposed to different kind of people and diverse, you know, diversities and etc., you know, helps you learn how to create really unique and individual relationships with very important people that are going to be important in your career.
Exactly. And it's great that you mentioned that because after your internship with Giovanna, you went and interned with, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced her last name. Celia Azulay?
Celia Azulay.
Azulay at Vogue Paris. And obviously Vogue Japan was the Asia market. Vogue Paris was the Europe market. And obviously you had to work. It was different, same industry, but different market, different people. It was a different team. How was that learning experience? Was it a learning curve of just reinforcing being personable? And what were the lessons that you learned with Celia while you were in her styling team?
It's really funny how I feel like I ended up with her. When I was still with Giovanna, Solange had left. you know, she had already been with her for over 40 years. It was her time to, you know, spread her wings and fly. And so it kind of left me kind of in limbo as to where do I go. And so a new assistant came in for Giovanna, who was maybe 2 years younger than me or a year younger than me. But she, you know, she's a great creative artist. And so she started assisting Giovanna, and I wanted to stay on the team. So here's an example of someone who doesn't want you on a team and you don't know what to do.
Okay.
Because this led me to Celia, you know.
Okay.
You know, this person gave me a very hard time. Made me feel, you know, people always remember how you make them feel more than what you say to them.
Yes. This
person, I will always remember. I don't hate her. I don't like feel ill towards her. I think that the way she made me feel was very mean. And I was surprised because this was a Black girl. And I'm like, we're supposed to like be on the same team. Like, you know, we're both fighting for the same thing. Like, you know, like we should be lifting each other up. Like nobody wants us in this room, yet here we are. So why am I being pushed down, you know? Yeah. So I ended my internship at Vogue Japan, so 90% because of that. I feel like she didn't really want me on the team. I never felt like I was a threat to her or anything. I definitely know that, you know, Giovanna was already familiar with me. I was a good intern. I was a really, really good intern at the end, because in the beginning I was a mess. But, you know, by the end I was a really good intern, and, you know, I had a lot of drive for what I was doing. And I worked hard. I'm like, yo, girl, like I worked my butt off and you're just going to kick me off the team. I've been here for a year and a half. The sweat and the tears that I have laid in this office for Giovanna's like team, like what? So that was a really hard pill for me to swallow. Whatever. It ended up not working out. She ultimately just didn't even want me on the team. She was so mean to me. And the people I had already made, again, talking about connections. Yes. I had made connections in the office with other people from Vogue Russia, Vogue Germany, everybody in the office. You know, I was friends with the mailman, like the Trevor. He still emails me to this day. Like, hey, how are you? Because nobody else talked to him. Yeah, and so, you know, he looks very mean. Like, he has his face, and he's very mean. But, like, I'm like, I know you're a teddy bear inside. And so, you know, he'd be the one delivering us the packages or whatever. And I'd always be like, hi, Trevor. Like, how are you? How's your day? And I'd always do that on purpose because I knew nobody else, like, talked to him. And I kind of felt bad. So I was like, I really want to, like, make him feel, like, nice. You know, he's the one that brings all our freaking packages up here. And so I made like friends with everybody in the office, and Celia still lived in Paris. She was coming to New York to do a story for an advertisement, Lancaster, that I actually ended up doing in September in LA. So it was very nice. It was also full circle for me. So she, you know, she was doing this ad campaign with this brand, and the fashion assistant for Vogue Germany, Beth, she was like, hey, I know this great girl, Tanya, she's in the office and she's looking for like internships or like assisting gigs, you know? And so it was like, okay, cool. I met Celia there, and then I went to set and I was like, this is fun. And then Celia left. She didn't really talk to me much. I think I also wasn't really present as much on set. I was kind of just like behind the scenes where the clothes were, just kind of like sitting there, you know, whatever she needed. And then she came back from Paris again and she asked for me. And then I was like, okay, cool. And then I started getting paid finally.
Finally.
$100, but guess what? I was moving up from intern to assistant. I don't know how, but I was going to make that happen. Girl, the amount of times that I lied, it was like, okay, do you know this PR person? Can you get this? Like, I'm like, yeah, for sure. And then I'm turning around, I'm like, shit, who are they even repped by? I don't even know where their office is. Like, I'm Googling, calling, just making shit happen. I don't like to say fake it till you make it, but like, I definitely just like figured it out, even with things that I didn't know. And then, she kept traveling back and forth, and she kept calling me, and then she ultimately said that at some point she was going to move to New York and she wanted me full time. So that's how that ended up working out. And I think because I brought a different kind of energy around her, she really loved that. I mean, to this day, we talk every day. Like, literally almost every other day, me and Celia talk, like, all the time. She became such an influential person in my life. I don't have siblings, so the relationship that her and I had was very big sister, little sister. She never made me feel like an assistant. She always made me feel part of who she was, I feel like. I also think that she enjoyed caring for me. And because of that, I feel like I always went the extra mile for her as well. I think it was vice versa. And we just worked very well. She really loved my sassiness.
It's more of like a sisterly mentorship, right? I imagine.
Yeah.
Having, unfortunately, and I talked about this with a previous guest, Stephanie Aceves, that when you're the only person of either color, Latina, minority in the room, and then someone else comes in, you feel threatened. That is the last thing one should do. And it's unfortunate that you went through that experience, because it should be unite together and let's uplift each other. Let's bring in more people. Let's grow in this industry. And then having the opportunity to work with Celia, it was a different experience of, I'm your sister. You grow. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to guide you. And again, going back to to those people that really care about you and to uplift you. At the end of the day, I guess through that unfortunate experience, you kind of, like, in seconds, who is maybe a double face, who their true intentions are showing in their sleeve. And
well, but I also feel like when you're working in this industry, like, you can't really take anything personal. For me, business is business. Like, that's my number one. Like, anything that I say or do, don't ever take personal, especially with, when I have interns and assistants on my team. I'm a very friendly person, but I'm also very assertive, and I like things done a certain way. And when I'm working, for me, business is business. So nothing that I'm doing or saying, I think that you should take personal. If you do, you can always come talk to me about it, and I'll lay it down straight for you, But I think that maybe what happened at that time, I don't know if maybe it's because we were both young and immature. I don't know. That could have been. I hope that over the years, this person has outgrown that. I hope that over the years, this person has maybe humbled a little bit more and been kinder a little bit more. I don't think she knows how she made me feel. Maybe she'll never know. Who knows, That's not really important anymore.
Yeah.
But, age could have played a part in it. I think that at the time we were both young. Like, she was 21 when she became Giovanna's assistant, which is a really big shoes to fill, okay?
Yes.
To fill Solange's shoes.
At 21.
And then to come in, like, I know it was no easy task. So I don't know. There could have just been different factors that played into that. I also know that at the time I was not the easiest person to handle. I learned again how to treat people over the years with my experience, and how to nurture relationships. So I just really think that it was like different kind of factors that played into that role. But the outcome was what needed it to happen, because at the time I remember feeling like Vogue Japan is my safety net. And so I didn't want to leave Vogue Japan, and I think that I was fighting it with her, with the assistant, because I'm like, this is all I know.
Yes.
I don't know how to work in another publication. Like, I know the market so well here, the Asian market, that like to even think of going to French Vogue, come on. French Vogue is like out of all the Vogues, French Vogue is top 3, okay?
Yes.
If not the top. So for me to even like think of going to French Vogue, I was like freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, you know? But but everything happens for a reason, and I needed that to jump once again out of my safety net and, you know, join this, you know, amazing other person that I would have never met had I not had this situation happen at Vogue Japan. So everything happens for a reason. I don't resent it. I'm not mad about it anymore. I definitely held a grudge, I feel like, for a while. Just because I feel like you never want to feel like somebody is taking something away from you that you've worked so hard for. And something that you feel like you've had to kick that door down. And then for somebody to just automatically take that away from you, you're like, excuse me, like, it's already hard enough for us,
yes,
you know, as minorities. Like, now you're trying to, you know, so I feel like that was the sentiment then. But now when I think about it, I'm like, you know, these are just things that sometimes happen in a person's life to get you where you need to be. And ultimately, that's what ended up happening.
Yeah, you were taken out of your comfort zones for something greater, meant for you. And, you know, you were with Celia. Can you remind me, how long was it? Also a year?
About 3 years.
3
No,
years.
I was with her from 2016 till last year.
So it was 3 years and
amazing years. I really don't think we argued once. Like, I think we might argued like twice within those 3 years, but like I could not speak any more highly of my experience with her and of her.
And I know that because I learned more of you from Andrea Vamonde's podcast, Latin America de Moda, and you emphasized something that I think people of our generation and younger generation kind of forget: the hard work. You have always advocated about the administrative job, and also it's not always fun and games in the fashion industry. It's hard work, and I want to go deeper in that, in those 3 years of the hard work that you put in place, and how, for anyone listening who wants to be a fashion stylist, to remind them, it's not always styling, you know, Giselle Bundchen. It's also, like you said,
it's never just styling when you're an assistant.
Yes. So
it's anything but that.
Exactly. So share with us, you know, those crucial moments in those 3 years that wasn't just styling, that really shaped you, who you are right now as a fashion stylist contributor for Vogue International, because you handle 3 magazines. You know, you work alongside the Vogue México, Vogue Brasil, Vogue Spain. It's different markets, different administrative jobs as well, and different styling and different relationships. So how was that like in those 3 years?
I've definitely always been a multitasker. I'm so good at multitasking. I love multitasking. Like, I love doing a million things at once. It's just something that I'm good at. And I think that I love the business side of fashion. Not fully, because I get bored, but, you know, I do love getting into the business side of fashion, because, you know, sometimes people forget that as a stylist, like, we're not just creatives who are just, you know, putting pieces together. Like, it's kind of like, it's a full thing where you're not, you know, you're working with budgets, you know, you're working with your, you know, brand director and managing that kind of communication with that person. You're also, as a stylist, you're producing. Who do you want to cast as your talent? What kind of makeup do you want? Like, it's kind of like a all around kind of thing. Being with Celia, I really got to learn from her how to juggle many jobs at once. You know, probably 90% of the time we were doing 3 shoots in 1 week. So whether we were doing, you know, French Vogue Beauty Story on a Monday, and then on Wednesday we're doing a Jimmy Choo ad campaign, and then on Thursday we're doing a 3-day Victoria's Secret e-commerce. None of those are the same, by the way. You're doing an e-commerce, you're doing an ad campaign, and then you're doing a fashion editorial. So I definitely learned how to juggle all three kind of different businesses all together, and how to incorporate different styles and shape those around the same way for each director and each brand, because the way that you style for Vogue Mexico is not going to be the same way that you're, dressing somebody's legs for a Jimmy Choo ad campaign, which you're only going to see from the waist down. So that's the most important. If you're working at a beauty store, what's important is neck detail, because you're only seeing from here up. If you're actually doing a fashion, 8 to 10 page main story, then you're actually seeing the full clothes. If you're doing an YSL beauty story, then you're focusing more on the skin, maybe. So these were, absolutely things that I learned from Celia. And then once I learned them, I kind of just took off, I was so good at it. I was like, I love this, I also feel that she was able to open a lot of doors for me. I think that being Hispanic, not many doors would have opened had I not, kind of, I think in that sense at the time, been represented by her. She, she's European, blonde hair, blue eyes, beautiful woman, and she really advocated for me. I feel like, I don't know if she knows that she advocated for me, because she probably did it without realizing that that's what she was doing, but I noticed. And she really advocated for me and my professionalism, and she, there was many times where she couldn't be, present for, walkthrough or for prep or whatever. And I feel like in those times, that's when the advocating came in of like, no, like, she can do it, she's really good at what she does. And then I would go in, and then like the client was very happy with my work, representing her. And I think that kind of also opened doors for me that I don't think I would have had as an Hispanic woman, so I'm very grateful for that experience. I learned a lot. It broadened my knowledge, and ultimately I feel like it really shaped me to be who I am now, because not only do I have my own, artistic passions and how I interpret those, but I also know how to dress a French woman. And I'm not French, but I know how to do that because I was mentored by somebody, who has that Parisian kind of fashion style for the last 3 years. And I had to mimic that, same with Giovanna. I learned her way of styling just by working with her. And so then I worked with Pedro Sales, for Vogue Brasil. And I feel like him and Giovanna are kind of more on the similar spectrum when it comes to colors and vibrantness and, exoticness. And Celia is more minimalistic, chic, very Parisian. And so I got to, experience all these worlds and then ultimately incorporate those into my career and like kind of shape up who I wanted to be. I think I'm still in that transition where I still don't know exactly who I am. I think that I'm still discovering who I am, because when you're working with these people and assisting these people for so long, you can tend to get lost into their vision, right?
Yes.
And so now you have to discover, well, what's your vision, And so it's not something that comes from one day to another. There, like I said earlier, there's many things in my head that I wish I could execute, and sometimes they don't come out that way. But it's trial and error. Yeah. And so now I'm at the point where, I know my aesthetic, but like I still have those, tough times where I have to break away from the mentality of like how Celia would style or how Pedro would style, But this is all, learning. This is all, how you learn throughout your relationships with these people and your experience assisting these people.
Exactly. And I'm curious, your time at E! News, you were the former head of fashion for E! News, and was that a time where you kind of were developing that identity of your voice of styling? Because you were styling 3 different people for TV, which is a whole other thing, different, it's
totally different. Which I learned.
Yeah, you learned throughout the time. So was it at a time of you discovering your voice and yes, taking in the experiences that you had with Giovanna, Celia, Pedro, but now also incorporating your voice? Was it easy or difficult? How was that journey like?
I feel like I've been trying to discover my voice since 2016 because, mind you, I was still doing my own projects even when I was with Celia. You know, I did a beauty story for Vogue Japan in 2016. I was like 23, something like that, 24. 20 was it? 20? Yeah, I was 23. So that was actually my first, I feel like, editorial for Vogue on my own. So I've been trying to discover my voice since 2016. Like any artist, you can speak, talk to a singer, you can talk to an actress. Everybody evolves as time goes and the older you get, So even though I've been trying to discover my voice, or like, not my voice, discover my creativeness since 2016, it's obviously evolved over the years as I mature and I grow, into who I really am. And I don't think any woman really knows who they really are until later on in life, really. Even in your 30s, you're still kind of discovering yourself just at a different level, right? So definitely I think like the e-news job was, I think that when you're working with celebrities, you can incorporate some of what your taste is, but it really at the end of the day is their taste, their aesthetic, right? So e-news for me was more of a learning experience as to how to work in TV world. I had never worked in TV world, not in that capacity. I've done many TV jobs for Coca-Cola, Victoria's Secret, Jimmy Choo, Estee Lauder, L'Oreal, like endless brands, right? But in a TV capacity where it's a show that's happening every single day, I hadn't really worked on. I've definitely had worked with Liliana dressing her red carpet. That was very different than doing a day-to-day. Because all three talent were different, they're each individual, it was my job to be able to speak to their individualism in incorporating their style with maybe my touch in it, and making sure that they were all coordinated during TV. And like Vic isn't wearing a denim shirt, and also Scott is wearing a denim shirt. It's like, okay, well, maybe Vic will wear denim pants, Scott will wear a denim shirt, and then Liliana will wear like yellow, like something printed, something that like, is cohesive and brings all of them together. So I don't know that I was really able to express my voice styling wise, maybe a little bit. I think it's more transparent when I do red carpet. Because then your client is a little bit more open to trying new things. When you're on TV, I learned that, your client doesn't want to try new things every single day. They kind of want to do what they feel comfortable, because if they're not comfortable in what they're wearing, that's going to show on TV, and it's going to ultimately show to you, the people that are watching it. So, I definitely had a lot of learning lessons in that job. I loved that job. I miss that job so much. Corona came, she snatched it all away. But, one of my favorite persons to dress was Vic, because I feel like he was just so, I feel like I kind of, I dress like a boy sometimes. Like I'm wearing like track pants and a huge, oversized hoodie, So I have I have many sides of me. And so I had really, had a lot of fun dressing him, because I could see myself in so many of his clothes, I also had never dressed men before. That was my first time dressing men. So that was a pivotal moment for me of like, wow, you know what? I learned something new about myself every damn day. Like now I know that I can dress men. Scott and Vic are totally two different people. And, with Scott it was a little bit harder for me personally, because he has, he's more minimalistic. He's your guy next door, he's your Australian hottie, right? And then Vic is, more adventurous fashion-wise, He doesn't mind wearing this, like, crazy Burberry print, with, like, another printed, Fear of God pants, right? And then Liliana, I feel like she, I always called her my little Jolly Rancher. She just loves color. She loves to be girly. So, from there, I was definitely able to incorporate some of my style in there, but mostly, it's just making your client happy and comfortable in what they're wearing 100%. Like that's the most important. And still look good.
Yeah.
So, I was doing that and still doing, stuff for Vogue Mexico and Vogue Brazil at the same time. So I was still, able to get my juices flowing in either.
Yeah, in each industry in terms of the fashion spectrum. And you spoke about COVID. Obviously, it has impacted every single industry, changed. We had to pivot, transform, evolve. But in your case, how has that been? Like, you kind of shared that experience of working alongside Christian for the cover with Vogue México, but how has that really shaped your team, yourself, and working with the other Vogue magazines in getting the job done in a very seamlessly and healthy way?
It's definitely changed, the way that we do things now. Before pre-COVID, I had a handful of interns in my apartment, sorting out the clothes, taking check-in pictures. Now it's kind of like a one-man team. If anything, I have my one assistant, Alexis, who I love her to death. I'll probably have one assistant, and then everything else, it's like, we got to do ourselves, because we're not able to have as many people on set. So in that sense, it's definitely changed. It's a little quieter right now in the industry, I feel like. I think as an industry, we're still trying to navigate how fashion is going to be defined forward. And that doesn't come from one day to another. I think it just comes with learning, innovating, and essentially, ideas, how we can move forward. It's not easy for anybody right now. It's not easy for me. I break down so many times a day, like, the amount of times I talk to my friends who are on this industry, and we all do, about the same thing, or are connected with each other in some way in the industry. We all have these kind of conversations. They're tough conversations, because I feel like, and I don't think just for me in the industry, I think for everybody in any industry, it's a hard time for everybody. We still don't know how to adjust to this. Something that we thought was going to be 4 months has now, basically is going to be a year of it. And so I think that, with time, I guess we'll figure it out. It hasn't been easy. It's tough for everybody. It's tough for my friends. But I'm sure there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's very slow in the industry. For me personally, especially, right now. And, a lot of people are not really working because of that. So many people have families that work in the industry. You don't want to jeopardize that as well. Working with magazines right now with Vogue Mexico, it has been pretty easy, because a lot of the things can be handled in New York, so my home is the office. And, I handle a lot of things from my desk, and, thank God for messenger service, right?
Yes.
Getting the job done. God bless. But I'm definitely not having a team of 5 interns anymore. It's more like me and an assistant, and then that's a wrap. Like, that's kind of it. It's also been quite nice, I feel like, because during this time, I feel like I was definitely always like, okay, what's my next job? Where am I going to go next? And everybody's like on, hustling and grinding. I haven't had the time to just rest and take the time for myself to discover who I am, speaking of who I am, and get my own personal creative juices flowing. And I've really been able to try to tap into that during this time of rest, the rest that I haven't been able to get in the last 6 years. I haven't slept. It's like literally have not slept. When I was interning, I was bartending and doing my internship, at the same time. And I was working at a store. Like, it's just been a mess, right? So I've definitely been able to sleep so much, right? And rest, but also, I customized my own Air Force Ones during quarantine. I've been drawing, I've been painting, and I think I'm discovering a little bit more of what made me happy and why I joined fashion. And definitely over the course of the years, finding my mission within the industry. Why am I here? Because it's really not just to dress people. We're not just saving lives. That's what I love to do. But what truly is my mission? And I've really tapped into that this year. And I've also grown to really love, I mean, I've always loved my roots, but really kind of dive into that side of me. And with so many, people and Latinas coming up and like having more of an open conversation as to where we are going and how to help each other out. This year has really been a turning point for us all. Because we had to take that step back and rest, right? And so now we're alone with our thoughts. And so now we got to get to thinking. So, now it's more of okay, how do we go forward and how can I help my people in this industry going forward?
And it goes back to, I think your time with Celia, how she maybe without knowing it was advocating for you, for having those doors be open, and then having that time to rest and you rediscovering that mission of having Hispanic Latinos on your styling team and having more representation in the fashion industry. Can you share, I know why it's so important, because I think this is why I'm doing Yes. This is why it's so important to amplify these voices so we can have representation and reminders that Latinas are doing the work for themselves and for us and for the generation that is coming. We need to have that representation. But for yourself personally, why are you doing this mission? Why are you strengthening it during a very difficult time, but necessary time for Latinos and for the industry? So can you share with me, why is it so important for Latinos to be in your styling team and in the fashion industry, even though I already may know the answer?
Absolutely. My mom, I feel like, didn't really get to accomplish many of her dreams, right?
Mm-hmm.
She got pregnant with me when she was 27. She was already married to my dad. And, I think that kind of cut where her goals were going to be because now she had to take care of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
My dad was working all the time, to try to support our family. And we had just moved to the States. And I've made it my mission, and it's something very important to me because when I think about the opportunities that maybe my mom could have had now, I'm her arm, I'm the branch, she's the tree.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, she's always loved fashion, and I feel like in those times, and even still now, when we think about Latinas in fashion, we think about seamstress, tailors, right? Because it's whenever you
Mm-hmm.
encounter someone, in LA, in New York, most of the time they are Latina, because you grow up learning how to sew.
Yes.
And so it's emotional for me, it goes beyond just wanting to help my people. It really grounds myself to who my mom could have been. And I'm that representative of that now, I represent her. I represent her spirit. I represent her heart and her creativeness.
Yes.
Because everything that my work ethic, the way that I am, my taste, a lot of it comes from her. And I take that, very to heart. And in my internships, I didn't really see girls like me. And even on, in magazines then, you always usually see a European girl or an American white girl.
Mm.
But when you think about Hispanics, somebody that has brunette hair with brown eye, clearly I'm not naturally blonde. But with brunette hair, brown eyes, olive skin tone, you don't see that too often. That's a representative of the Mexican heritage for me, right?
Yes.
So now, over the years, I have found that it's important to cultivate that that open thinking of, we're not just made to do labor work. We're not just made to clean houses, right? We're good at it, but we're not just made to do these certain things. We go beyond that, but nobody has opened those doors for that. Nobody has given that option or that opportunity. I can probably bet that there's so many Latinas that maybe are a seamstress back then or even now that feel that they could do more, but because they don't feel encouraged to, they stay stuck where they are. And I didn't want to be that person, you know? I didn't want the people around me to be that person. I left Celia with a Mexican assistant, Ana Paula, who's a dear friend of mine. Her mom and my mom grew up together. They were both best friends in high school in Mexico. And, you know, I grew up, Ana Paula is a few years older than me. And when I was little, I grew up in their house with her little sister, right? There were so many play dates that we had. And she reached out to me and she's like, I want to come to New York. She reached out to me almost 2 years ago and was like, I want to come to New York. She used to work for Michael Kors at the store. And she's like, I would love to intern for you. And, you know, I brought her in and, you know, she interned for me. I kind of mentored her because I knew that my time to leave was going to be, you know, coming up. And I left her with Celia. You know, to me, that was like one of my first steps of my mission, was opening the doors that were not there for me. You know, my journey has been over a 6-year journey. I was able to kind of bring this to somebody in 2 years, you know? Yes. And so I take that to heart. I think it's very important, and our voices are so important. And it's getting to the point where, for me, I'm kind of tired of hearing I'm tired of hearing like, well, our voices need to be heard. Our voices are heard, just nobody is paying attention. So we gotta make the moves. Yes. Like, hey, it's time that you pay attention to me. I can do as great as a job as that white girl can do, or this person can do, you know? And for me, I started getting, you know, Black girls into my team, Latinas into my team, like, you know, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, my Alexis, who is my assistant, she's Mexican from Chicago. I started just wanting to bring these kind of girls into my team because I in some sense, I wanted to inspire them as much as I wanted somebody to inspire me, right? When I really started taking fashion seriously when I was in El Paso, one of my big role models was Carla Martinez, who's editor-in-chief of Vogue Mexico. I was still in El Paso going to college when she was featured in an article for the City magazine. This was way before I had even reached out to them, right? I had just started college. So I was probably 18 when I read, or 19 when I read this article of Carla and her sister, because her sister also used to work on a different angle of fashion, but also in the industry here in New York, Veronica. And I read the article and I was like, wow, 2 Mexican, what, can you believe that, from the border in New York, working top notch? Like, how do I get there, right? So that was my first, I feel like, an inspiration for me of like, oh shit, I can do that too, you know? So I think in some sense when I have my interns and assistants, I do want to be that inspiration to them, that maybe I didn't have. I mean, I definitely looked up to Carla even then. I don't even know. I don't even think she knows this. But, you know, and so it's just been something dear to my heart. I feel like support is very important. I'm very grateful for Carla and Valentina. They've both really supported my career in any way that they can. And that is really, that you see that and you get that when you put Latinas together. Yes. You create great things. Aside from the fact that you relate to one another personally, because we all come from somewhat of a similar background, right, culturally. And, you know, the Latina woman doesn't really make much money, right? I can probably, now that I'm older, I can probably go back in time and in my head and definitely pinpoint areas where I feel I was very underpaid, or felt that I wasn't really taken serious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I feel like at some point, I feel like I started dyeing my hair blonde to feel so people would react differently to me, because I was not white, right? And I do notice the difference of how I'm approached, or the difference of how people interact with me from when I'm brunette and when I'm blonde. Isn't that crazy? Like, just something so subtle.
So, yeah.
And I'm not blonde right now anymore because of that. Okay. It was actually, this time was because it was the summer. But one of my first times when I went blonde, that was kind of my thinking of like, and it's crazy because I was so young. I mean, I'm still young, but like, can you imagine, when did I go blonde? Like, I was probably 19, 20, like somebody really young, and having this kind of thinking of like, well, damn, like now, like, I guess I gotta look American and white to like get these certain opportunities. And that's what I did. I changed my appearance for it.
To fit.
Right? And so over the years, it hit me like, whoa, I didn't even realize that society was making me change to what they thought that I needed to be considered professional or to be taken serious. I was literally changing my appearance. That is crazy to me because it didn't even hit me, right? Like, I didn't comprehend that that's what I was doing. So now that I know that, I'm like, I don't want other people to feel that way, like, I definitely have had interns or assistants that you look at and you're like, I don't think they fit in. No, girl, they fit in because the creativeness comes from here, okay? Not from the outside. So, there's just different aspects as to why it's important for me to have that representation within my team. I also think that I work better when I'm around people like me, and I express myself better when I'm around people like me. And I just want to bring like, that artistic side out of me, and like, so other people could see that, we just don't do ruffles and like sunflowers, like I know how to, I'm all around. I know how to take care of different, directions, and, how to handle different things. But I feel like it's all grounded because of my mom, and I always think of her anytime I do anything. So it's definitely an emotional thing for me.
As you can see, you made me cry. Me hiciste llorar.
I almost cried, but I sucked it up.
You sucked it up. I cried while you were sharing this with me, because I can connect with that. I am my mother's daughter, and like you said, I am the arm and she is the tree, and I am doing what I would have loved her to have accomplished, because she still has so much potential. And it's so true. We are talking, our voices have been here for so many years, but it's up to us, because maybe white people can't listen or don't want to listen, but it's up to us to open those doors and create that space. And you're doing that, Tanya. And I love it. I can connect with that. I support that. And it just makes me happy when you said that you left Celia with another Mexican assistant.
I feel like that's how you keep giving, right?
Exactly.
Like you keep planting the seed, and you keep putting in the people that are good and fit for that job, and it has nothing to do with ethnicity.
No.
And it has nothing to do with your race. But society has made it that, so it's definitely like, for me, it's been really nice to be able to solidify that,
yes.
As a first time. And now I hope that, any of my assistants that, cross my path, or I cross their path, ultimately can gain something from their experience with me, and that I can help them grow, because I still have people that help me grow,
Exactly.
Valentina helps me grow a lot. She's a fashion director for Vogue Mexico. She has been such a big part of my life and a big part of my career, I feel like. She's always also advocating for me. we have a kind of a friendship relationship. So if I'm feeling down, I always call her, and we talk about things, and I kind of like vent to her, and she uplifts me, and it's just really that Latina community of keeping each other up, and not being threatened by another Latina in the room. Everybody has a place. Trust me, like everybody has a place. So we definitely, as a community, bring different sides of us, right? Whatever that may be, because Latina isn't just one thing. We form so many different areas of the world, and we all have different kind of cultures, and we all bring different things to the table. Just because somebody says Latina doesn't mean we're all the same. That's like stereotyping again. We all bring in different things. So as a community, that's really important. Then you start seeing the changes. You start seeing how powerful a picture can be. I've definitely, and also being a woman, right?
Yes.
It's so important. I love being a woman. I've been on sets where it's all women and 2 guys, and I don't know, it's hit me, and I'm like, oh shit. The photographer is a woman. The digitech is a woman. The stylist is a woman. I was assisting Celia. I'm the woman, we're all a women team, and 2 guys who are there as production assistants. Like, that's insane, So also, just even as a woman, like, it's, el triunfo de una es el triunfo de todos, no?
Exactamente.
Like, we're all triumphant together.
Yeah.
So, and even like, my best friends, Claudia and Mariana, we all work in the industry, and we always uplift each other, and it's funny because sometimes, like, if we're out on dinner, we like end up meeting someone who also works in the industry, and, it's a really nice thing to have a friend that is on the same mindset. She's Venezuelan, and sometimes, like, the connection's like, oh my God, I need this for Sen, and I will be like, oh my God, Claudia's so good at that. Claudia is amazing at personal styling. You should totally talk to her. Like, it's not even a competition. It's like, where everybody has a place. Everybody's good at what they do. And sometimes Claudia would be like, oh my God, Tanya is like, that's your go-to person,
Yes.
And that's what we need.
We need cheerleaders. We need, again, going back to that connection, real relationships, and using that to our advantages, so we can uplift and grow in each of our industries. And I love that. It's a topic that I've been talking with all my guests throughout all these 50 episodes, and it's so true. It needs to be repeated. So we asked our listeners, and Tanya also asked her followers, to send over questions so we can, answer all of your questions here in terms of the fashion industry, and to celebrate this 50th episode. So our first question is actually from a listener, Andres Rafael Loya. And he asked Tanya, what made you want to take on New York instead of LA? So, yeah, I feel New York is a fashion capital, but
I have your question, and then this, I feel like this question that I have kind of ties into that.
Okay.
So I'm going to say it. So this girl asked, how was it moving somewhere that was so different from your hometown? Okay. I feel like I can answer these 2 questions together. So I definitely went to LA for a week to kind of test out how I felt there before, like, I feel like after, it was between the time during my internship here and college. So somewhere in that time frame, I went to LA for a week to kind of test it out. And it didn't feel like me. There wasn't a specific reason. I just feel that you just kind of know where you belong.
Yes.
Right. And I went to LA, and I just didn't feel like I belonged. I don't like the way that the city moved. I don't know. I just didn't feel like myself. And when I came to New York, I came to New York for a day, and I knew that this was my home. So there's like, you kind of like, that's how off the bat I knew. And even now, when I think about like going to LA, I just can't picture myself there. I mean, I was in LA probably most of all of September doing shootings over there, and then I kind of took some time off and stayed there. And I loved it because, I have my friends, and I was able to work there. But long term, I just don't, I can't, there's nothing that compares to the city. I like New York is my heart. Like the vibe is so different.
Mm-hmm.
The way people are so different. I feel like I'm just very much a New York City girl. And then with her question, how was it moving somewhere that was so different from your hometown? I think that I don't miss my hometown, but I think it's because the mentality that I already had. I've always had big city mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came to New York, I just felt so at home. You know, New York has made me open up my mind. I feel like coming from a small town, you tend to be closed-minded. And so coming to New York really, like, I struggled with myself a lot on being open-minded with a lot of different things. The first times that I ever voted was here in New York. Never before had I really been involved in politics.
Mm-hmm.
I really had to confront with where my faith was, like how, you know, where my spirituality was being driven. That all happened because I came to a city with an open mind. So it wasn't really hard for me to leave, you know, El Paso behind. El Paso will always be here with me in my heart. You know, I'm a border child, you know, I'm from the border.
Yes.
But that side of me comes out when I'm handling people, you know. I definitely try to be humble when you know, I'm on set, and just with the opportunities that I get, because I try to remind myself where I'm from. But that doesn't define me. So I definitely, you know, it wasn't really hard for me to leave my town behind and then come to New York. I knew that my mentality was bigger.
Perfect. And question number 2, and this is from Alexa Alvidres. Who was your favorite celebrity to dress?
Damn it, Alexa. My favorite celebrity to dress. Ooh, I gotta think about that one. Who is my favorite celebrity to dress? Like for anything?
Can we let's make it easier. Let's choose editorial, red carpet, music video, and TV. You have 4 options there.
So easy. No,
No?
just casual. Editorial. I've worked with. This is gonna sound so cliche, but I've shot Bella Hadid like 3 times, and every time is my favorite time. Like, I just love working with her and dressing her. She's so fun. Like, she's just fun. And she just like, she just acts like a friend, really. So she's probably one of my top favorite that I've dressed editorially, like worked with on fashion editorials. I've also worked with Christy Turlington, and she was really great to dress also. She has that mom vibe, you know?
Yeah.
Like that mom instinct, and it's very nice to be around. And music video, I mean, I worked on Anita and J Balvin. J Balvin was really fun to dress. I mean, he only wore a tux, but I love J Balvin.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. And he knows I'm a fan. So, you know, that was definitely like super fun for me to dress him for that. And TV, you know, I've had a really long relationship with Liliana. So we've always had fun in the past for red carpet. You know, it's always been fun because she gets her head wrapped around like something, and then I'm like, no, I like this, and then she finally puts it on, and she's like, no, you know, she kind of wants to stay in like her kind of like safe zone, like wants to venture out, but also wants to feel a little safe, you know? And then I'm like, no, like, let's do edgy. Let's do like this, you know, this color is great. You're like, you look great, you know, and then we'll kind of compromise somewhere in the middle. So that's fun, you know, dressing her, of course. Which one was the other one?
And well, we said TV, but that was also red carpet.
Yeah,
so,
red carpet. Well, TV would have been Vic.
Oh, yes. And the last question on my end was from Tanya Ortega. Can you share with us? Can you share with us the experience of working alongside Anita and J Balvin for the music video?
That was a long ass day.
You shared also Insta stories of you being stressed, and you're like, "Damn it, where are
On
the
my
clothes?"
phone, I was stressed. I was stressed because, things happen. The music video, there was a creative board made for that, and then it ended up switching the night before. Anita didn't want to do that anymore. And then we had to change everything last minute. So in some of the clips that you see on Netflix that I posted on my Insta stories, you kind of see Anita a little bit frustrated or stressed out on her blazer and the bra. That was coming from the change of direction that we had done overnight. So that was crazy. But overall, it was such a great experience. Anita's a very hard worker. I think that I have thick skin. I also feel like there were certain qualities that Anita has that I also have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's a boss ass bitch. And I definitely have my moments where I'm a boss ass bitch. So, again, business is business. And she definitely had that mentality. And so I know that some people had said, working with her was, rough or something. For me, it wasn't. And I don't know if it's because I have tough skin and could kind of relate to her on some level, right? You want perfectionism and professionalism to the top, right?
Yes.
So I didn't expect anything less. So I didn't see her in that light. I actually really enjoyed working with her. I of course enjoyed working with Jim because I love Jim. His music is just so damn good. So it was a really great experience for me. Very tired. I probably, we prepped and then shot the video and then wrapped up. And this was all a week, kind of everyday thing of 18 hours a day, So, but that's how the industry works. And I had a really good experience. I will never forget that music video. Also, I loved that song. So
yes, it's such a good song.
Great.
Yeah.
Also, you know what? I love sexy women. I love sexy women. If a woman, especially in that music video,
mm-hmm.
she's just she's being herself. She's embodying who she is. I freaking love that. I'm not, I'm very comfortable in my body. So seeing that, it was just amazing because I really love a sexy woman that really grasps that and knows that and embodies it to me. And you're a boss ass bitch, girl. The sky is the limit.
Love it. To end this wonderful conversation, Tanya, I want to finish off with our classic question is, if you have the opportunity to travel back in time at any age, knowing what you know now, what you've accomplished, you went through, what would you tell to younger Tanya?
What would I tell? I think Andrea asked me the same thing and I was like, let me think about this. What would I tell that young Tanya? I think that I've told myself many things to get here since I was little.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could go back in time, I think I would do it all over again. I think, I mean, if I was giving myself advice, now that I know where I got, I feel like I would just remind myself in the times that were tough for me and that I wanted to give up and quit. I would just be cut that shit out and keep going, because trust me, there is a trophy at the end,
Mm-hmm.
There is a reward for all this, right? I think that's the biggest advice for myself would just be to there was many times that I I had a hard time getting here and just struggling with the fact of going away from the plan my family thought that I should follow since I was little. So just not letting that take over my thoughts and lose my time on that.
Mm-hmm.
And instead focus more on how to reach those goals, right? To get to where I would eventually get to. I think that would be my advice. But I think that I accomplished that advice on my own because, my rebellious spirit.
I love it, Tanya. You followed your heart. You followed what God had intended for you, and you bet it on yourself and your skills and your talent, and here you are. And I can't wait to see what more doors you have to open, what more
Same, girl.
accomplishments.
Pray for that.
Yes. And I know, the success is going to come, and I would love to have you back here so you can give us an update, hopefully for the 100th or 150 episode here on Ellas, so we can have
There
you
you
back.
go.
Yes. And Tanya, for anyone who is listening and they want to reach out to you, follow you, where can they connect with you?
I think the best way to connect with me is through my email. So, you can go to my Instagram. It's Tanya, Tanya .Ortega, Orteg with 2 A's at the end, because somebody dared to take my name. So I had to add another A at the end. You can go to my Instagram and just press contact, and my email will automatically pop up. So Perfect. I think the easiest way to contact me is email. People DM me and I never answer. It's very hard. I don't know what is up with my DMs, but I just So I think email is definitely something that I look at every day, whether I open your email or not. I'm always looking in my email. So I think email would be the best point of contact for me.
Perfect. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. This was a great 50th episode. I'm honored that it was with Tanya, because Tanya shared so much advice, so much of her journey of how she has been able to open doors for herself, for others to be and grow in the fashion industry. And thank you for supporting Ellas this far. And I hope I know we're going to have other 50 episodes, and we're going to grow even more. So you can follow us and continue this conversation, this journey on Instagram at Ellas the Podcast. That's ELLAS the Podcast. You can reach out to email if you want to be a guest here at ellasthepodcast@gmail.com. That is ELLAS the Podcast@gmail.com. Tanya, muchas gracias. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
It's such an honor, and thank you. So you'll be hearing another amazing conversation from another empowering Latina in 2 weeks. Adios.
Bye.